I just placed an order with this online comic book store, but I really don't want them to be Square again. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I am going to open up an order of comic books that I placed, yes, with Midtown Comics, the same Midtown Comics that sent me comic books in a square box not that long ago. But for some reason, I just love the punishment. In all fairness, I really think the square box was a one-off, and if you haven't watched that video, it's pretty entertaining. I just watched parts of it recently, and yeah, I had some fun with it because I was like, comics are not square, as far as I know, and how it was placed in a square box diagonally or leaning in there, and the comics were a mess. I'd never seen comic books shipped like that before, and some time had passed, and this has happened with Midtown Comics, where it's almost like I forget the pain, or I forget the bad experiences that I've had. And one of the reasons that after I let some time pass, I buy again is I run the numbers, and a lot of the numbers show me, based on my collection, the numbers are telling me that a lot of my CGC graded 9.8s originally came from Midtown Comics. So what I end up doing is, when I catalog my books, every single comic book that I've purchased and added to my collection, I tag it with a source, and then if I do end up getting the book professionally graded, then I run a report that says, by source, tell me how many comic books have received a CGC 9.8, because then it builds confidence that if I order from that seller more frequently, I have more of an opportunity to acquire raw comic books that have the potential to be a 9.8. And for better or worse, Midtown is on that list. So I want to go ahead and open up this order of comics that I placed. And I decided to place the order because Midtown was having a sale, and they do these flash sales, and they're kind of all over the place. Sometimes it's based on the first letter of the series. So they'll say titles that begin with A, B, C, or D are 60% off today. Sometimes it's issue number ones, sometimes it's incentives, and it will just be like a one-day only sale. And on this particular day, for this specific sale, I thought I found some deals, or at least I found some books that had fallen back to fair market value, where I was willing to pay fair market value for a couple of the higher end ratio books. So let's take a look at the box that Midtown used to ship me my comic books. I'll unbox the comics and show you what I picked up this time around from Midtown. All right, thank the maker. The comics arrived in the expected rectangular shaped shipping box from Midtown Comics, and it should be the typical bubble wrap, cheap paper bag, comic books inside. So let's open it up and see which comics I picked up. All right, here are the comics. They do use my favorite kind of bubble wrap, and I do miss having a lot of that Midtown Comics bubble wrap for when I have to send books out, but it's perfect for wrapping CGC slabs in. Of course, when it's actual bubble wrap and not just wrap where the bubbles have been popped. So I end up saving a lot of that packaging, because you can make a really sturdy bubble wrap holder for mailing out CGC slabs. But we're not here to talk about packing materials. We're talking comics today. So let's take a look at the books that I picked up on sale from Midtown. The first book is Doctor Strange, Volume 4, Number 1. This is a book that seems like they never run out of this one. That this is always in stock, and I feel like every time I place an order, I pick this up. And at the very end, we'll take a look at the raw book values, and if I were to get these books graded, the graded potential values. And this one always has a pretty decent value, both raw and graded, and it always seems to be in stock at Midtown, so I just grab a copy anytime I place an order. Next is Thor number 31. This is a Russell Dauterman incentive variant. I collect these character costume iterations. I really love these Dodderman covers. So I'm kind of getting in this habit now. Anytime I go to buy comics, I put in the search Dodderman or Dodderman variant just to see if they have any in stock. And I would love to have a collection of these graded and display them all together, as I think they're quite unique. And I believe there are a small handful of these in this order. This is Fantastic Four number 47. This is the open order Russell Dodderman Invisible Woman variant, and it shows all of her costumes over time. And it is odd. Sometimes there are incentives like the Thor book. This one is open order, just the standard cover variant. And then sometimes there'll be even a full art version. It kind of makes it a little bit hard to collect them all, but in a way, it kind of makes it fun because you're trying to track them down. And a lot of them are very, very sought after and highly collectible. The one with Rogue is probably, I think, one of the most popular ones. Next, we have Star Wars Dr. Aphra, number 19. This is the Sprouse Lucasfilm 50th anniversary cover. I think I placed this order right after Mandalorian Season 3 had wrapped, or close to the end, and was very much interested in getting Bo-Katan's first comic book cover. And if I'm just looking at the condition of some of these, I'll take this one out of the bag and board real quick. I noticed there is corner damage. I hope it's not on all of the books, but right there, there's just some slight damage right on the corner. So probably more closer to a 9.6 or even a 9.4. I feel like that's a 9.6 corner. Everything else looks to be fine. I mean, even if you press that out, I think it's just breaking a little bit of color there. So very close to a 9.8, but more realistically, a 9.6 on that one. So I'll pay attention to some of the other corners on some of these books just to make sure that there wasn't damage in transit, just because with how Midtown packs these books, the books end up kind of shaking or sliding around in the box, and really that's how the books get damaged. I've mentioned this to them many times over the years. They don't listen to me, and it's very unfortunate they don't change how they pack. But here's another one, a little bit of a soft corner right there. So these are probably 9.6s. I think I ordered 3. Yeah, and here's the third one. Same thing, and you can see, like, I did nothing but pick this up. You can see just the really horrible bags and boards. I can't stand these that they use. And you can also see how the comic itself, it sits outside of the board. So if there is any movement, the only thing protecting that corner is the bag itself. And you can see as I push on it, like that's exactly how these corners get dinged. I always buy the Silver Age, kind of the oversized bags and boards. But the bags that I use from BCW, they hold the book in place and it's super tight. And so there's really nowhere for the comic to go, even though there's room for it to move around, because it's holding the comic book in place. Whereas this it just slides around like very easily. I just moved it down and now the board is covering the corner, and all I did, it's so loose and ridiculous, and they don't tape it because they use the resealed. Anyway, it does feel like a repeat of some of the orders. I always have the same complaints, and here I go. I ordered the same books, but I think all 3 of those are probably max 9.6. Still feel like, I got it around cover price or a little bit under cover, so I don't want to be too upset about it. But of course, I'm buying these because I'm looking for 9.8 candidates. Next is Batgirl number 27. Another artist that I just regularly search for is Joshua Middleton. I love his run of Batgirl covers. I think that, again, over time, I talk about this, like there's certain artists paired with certain characters where it's always going to be interesting. It's always going to maybe not necessarily be ultra valuable, but I think it will hold value. And I'm trying to be more conscious and aware of comic books that I'm buying, especially in today's market, where I'm trying to buy less filler and focus on artists that I love, characters that I love, where I know that these books should be desirable in the long run. Another Middleton cover. This is upside down, but it is Batgirl 35. Love this one too. I feel like if it came out today, I'd be ordering 3 copies. Next is World Tree number one. This is the Jenny Frison variant, and I was watching this book closely. I am a Tinian fan and an even bigger Jenny Frison fan, so the combination of Frison art on a Tinian book is always something that I'm on the lookout for. But this book is a recently released book. It is a 1 in 10. It's labeled here for 15. I didn't pay 15 for it. And the values are starting to kind of roll in. And what I've noticed is this book is hovering around the $100 mark in a CGC 9.8. So I feel like for the investment that I'm taking, the type of book that it is in terms of the paper and just how the book is put together, I think that these have a really good chance at being a 9.8. And I think I picked up a couple of those. Yeah, here's the other one. So I picked up two of these, another World Tree number one, Jenny Frison 1 in 10. Now, here was the other, I think it was probably the most expensive book in the order that I picked up, and it's Uncanny Avengers number one. There's a lot of great covers in the Uncanny Avengers runs. This is the 1 in 100 retailer incentive by Olivier Coipel, who I think I first really started admiring around House of M and probably some comics just before it, and loved this really team shot with Scarlet Witch front and center here. And what's nice is they did send it in this additional sort of flimsy top holder. Again, spare no expense, Midtown. It would have been nice if it was more of a rigid holder because it bends so easily. I don't really know how this is adding additional protection, honestly. They all seem to suffer from this like little soft corner issue. So again, this is probably going to max out at a 9.6. Looks pretty good otherwise. But really thought that with the sale that they were having, like I said in the intro, that wasn't necessarily like some sort of steal. It was more or less that the book kind of fell back down to what I would consider to be market prices. And then I liked the cover, loved the artist, and kind of justified my purchase. I mean, you'll see what I paid for, but it's very difficult to get those 1 in 100s down way under ratio. So I was happy to get that one. This one, sometimes I don't know why Midtown does this, but they put the books in backwards. Another title that I end up buying quite a few of. This is Twig, and this is I believe it's the 1 in 10 incentive cover, and it's just the full art version. To me, this would be a perfect animated series adaptation of this series, Twig, written by Scotty Young. Another book I don't know too much about, and this is US Avengers number one. Similar to that Doctor Strange book, this book seems to always kind of be in stock for cover price. Kind of little Thunderbolts-ish a little bit there. So who knows with the Armor Wars, Thunderbolts, how it's all going to play out. But for cover price, couldn't really pass it up. All right, more Dodderman variants here. I ended up picking up 3 of the Mary Jane and Black Cat number 4 Russell Dodderman Black Cat open order variant. And like I was saying before too, like this is the open order. It has the trade on it. And then there's also one without the trade. And I think that's a 1 in 100. And this is sold out at other online retailers and available at Midtown. So I picked up a few copies at cover price. And then I believe the last 2 are also World Tree books. This is the open order. I think it's cover B by David Aja. Always kind of on the lookout for his artwork. And then the last book here, this is World Tree number 1. This one looks to have a bunch of scratches on the front cover. See there. So I'm always hesitant to give a book with scratches. There's one that goes all the way down the middle. I have, unfortunately, a book that I sent into CGC. I was not aware of the scratch, or I wasn't aware that it was on the book, but also had I seen it, I probably wouldn't have thought that it would have gotten dinged so much. It was a more or less perfect 9.0, but with the scratch all the way down. So that's probably what I'll end up giving that book to, assuming everything else is fine. But these are the books that I picked up from Midtown. A nice assortment. All of these, I'll show you what I paid for them. I think they're around cover price, and you can see some of the incentives to the discount that I got on those. So let me show you exactly what I did pay and what these books are valued at currently in the market, and what values would they have if I decided to send them in for professional grading. All right, here is the order that I placed with Midtown Comics back in mid-May 2023. I was invoiced $153.91. I had to pay $13.35 in tax. I did unlock free shipping. They keep raising the minimum order for free shipping. I think it's up to $89 now. I know a lot of stores do free shipping at 100 or more, so I feel like it's creeping up in that direction. And what I've done is I've data entered each of the books that I ordered, and then what I like to do is take my total cost, so it is the cost of the book itself plus the $13.35, and I distribute it across the 18 books in the order. And then if my math is correct in column Z, we'll see here at the bottom, yes, it does match $153.91. So I know that each of these books are basically paying the price for the additional tax on top of the order. Now, what I like to see is in column U, I've got the cover price fair market value, which is either the fair market value of the book in near mint condition or the highest reported fair market value of any condition. And I take the higher of the two. In many cases, almost all of my orders, I try to focus books that are listed in near mint condition or books that I've scanned through photos of online auctions and feel like, okay, these are probably in the realm of 9.4 candidates. So I feel like it's okay to use near mint or the higher of the two values. So if I compare the values in column U and column Z, what I'm looking for is determining if I've added any value to my collection if I were to keep these books raw. And if I look in column AA, which is essentially looking at the fair market value minus the total cost, which is the cost of the book plus tax, then I can see that yes, I have added a little over $16 of value to my collection if I were just to keep all these books raw. Now, it's not a lot of money. It's really, like I said, it was leveraging the books that were on sale, additionally just getting books that were at cover price so that I was paying more or less fair market value. Let's look at some of the value winners here. Thor number 31, the Daughterman incentive variant, I paid $21 for that book, and it has a fair market value currently of $31. The Uncanny Avengers incentive, I paid $34.58. It has a fair market value of $38, and that's what I was saying. I was willing to get in on that book around $35 because I love the cover, but also I think it has potential if I were to get the book graded. And then that Doctor Strange #1, fair market value of that book is $15, so a nice $8.68 value add. Twig #1, that was a 1 in 10 that I got for $4.49, and that's holding right at ratio, which is a pretty good sign that it's holding up after being released last year. And everything else is like negative $1.79, $1.24 here or there. So, kind of a break-even scenario. But let's see if I were to get these books graded, if there's any additional value that could be added. So this is just potential, but so the first thing is, since they're near mint, I assume 9.4, and I'm going to flip all of these to 9.4s and see if any of them have a CGC value in a 9.4, as expected with all of these books being relatively new. Some of the brand new, the World Tree books that just came out, there's not a lot of data, but also not a lot of desirability for these books in a 9.4. Batgirl #27, $25 in a CGC 9.4, and Uncanny Avengers #1, $60 in a 9.4. Again, no real value add if I were to send all of these books in for grading here, or at least sent the two that did have value. It would just sort of be a waste of time. The real interest for me is if these are 9.8, and I often say I don't expect them all to be a 9.8, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that I would say, based on my statistics, somewhere around at least a third of these books should be a 9.8, maybe even up to 40%. So it is interesting to look at these because realistically 6 to 10 of these books are going to be a 9.8 just based on Midtown's track record. Doctor Strange #1, $115 in a 9.8. The 2 Jenny Frison World Tree #1, that cost me $14.24. to acquire each one, but in a 9.8, it's already selling for $102. And I think it's a combination of Tinian fans, the story, and probably more than anything else, the Jenny Frison cover art, if we're all being honest. The Dr. Aphra books that probably are not going to be a 9.8, but if they were, $67.33 each. So really strong for just a cover price buy, that those books already have a value. And it used to be where you could kind of target the $100 mark, and you'd say, well, it's worth acquiring this book for a round cover price, or maybe double cover, because I could grade it and get $100. And I think with the market kind of backing off a little bit, it feels like $65 is probably a decent price. Again, you're not going to get rich off of all of this. This is about just protecting your collection. Yes, it's an investment, but also what you're trying to do is make sure that you're not buying 100 World Tree cover Bs in a 9.8 and then realizing they have no value. I would prefer to buy 3 copies of Dr. Aphra 19 because I know it's at 67, just above that $65 mark. So if I'm paying $5 for the book at cover price, and then to keep the math easy, $30 to get it graded, it hits a 9.8, it's a $35 investment. It's not quite doubling your money up to 65, but you kind of get the fuzzy math that I'm doing. To me, that justifies the cover price purchase. Now, some of these are not showing the justification of these, but I also believe in the potential, or I just want to own and collect the books. So there's part of me that's looking at this financially, and there's part of me that's just looking at this for fun as a collector. And the Mary Jane and Black Cat #4 is just pure fun. I think that over time, those Daughterman variants will slowly creep up in value, so I do believe that they will increase. But if nothing else, it's nostalgic to look at all of the costumes and figure out, like, where is that from? Maybe do a little research and figure out, like, when did Felicia actually wear that outfit? Yes, sometimes that's what I'm searching for on the internet. And what's odd about that book is that it's sold out in many places, but then the Fantastic 447 you can find practically everywhere, but in a 9.8, that's $34. Not suggesting, again, that those should be purchased, graded, and flipped, because it would just be a waste of time. You're just barely getting your money back. But again, that's very interesting. This one is, to me, is a little harder to find. The fact that I found it on Midtown, I was happy about that and wanted to grab 3 copies. The Fantastic 447, I can find that on many outlets, but it's worth a little bit more. And the Joshua Middleton books, not a lot of value there, but in a worst case scenario, getting your money back, making a few dollars here and there. So overall, if I were to send all of these books into CGC and they did get a 9.8, I'm looking at a value increase of $349.68. So not too bad, spending roughly $150 for a potential ceiling on this order of about $350. So getting my $150 back, adding $350 of value, roughly $500 worth of collectible comic books if I were to get them all graded. Obviously, it's hard to do. I don't have a Midtown order that I can refer to where I had 100% all come back in a 9.8. But my data entry and reporting told me not to necessarily give up on Midtown, but just take a break. So, of course, I'll have to grade every book just to make sure that there was no real significant damage in transit. From the few that we did look at, it looks like they arrived pretty safely. So they'll all be around a 9.4, 9.6 with some happy surprises of a 9.8 on some of these. But while I'm not endorsing buying from Midtown, what I am endorsing is keep your eyes out for sales and let the deals come to you. I try not to chase a lot of these books. None of these books I think are really worth chasing, to be honest. I mean, I'm kind of chasing the Daughterman variant, so maybe I am doing that. But it's really around kind of waiting it out, waiting for these good books and these good values and these sales to come to you. And I'm just so happy that these books didn't arrive in a square box, honestly. These are all books that are very typical of comics in my personal collection. So I'm always happy to add those characters and titles, creators, cover artists that I do collect. So all in all, it looks to be a pretty healthy order, pretty good order. I'm looking forward to grading these and we'll be giving Midtown, I was going to say a second chance, but I don't know what fifth or sixth chance they're on with me at this point. But I do feel like when their books go on sale, it's worth the gamble. It's worth taking a chance and ordering from them. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.